Great. So I think we'll start off with our introductions. To anybody that was with us last week, thank you so much for joining us again. We had a little technical issue, it was beyond our control, but I think such was the interest in Pauric Lenehan's content, we could not but reorganise the webinar. He had a lot of us captivated by the slides that he managed to get through, particularly in terms of looking at how people are engaging with your website, with your social media, with your e-commerce activity online, be that on a laptop, on a smartphone, whatever it was. And he had some fascinating statistics and even dimensions about typical finger lengths and all that. So we're very much looking forward to hearing Pauric give his full speech today too. This, of course, is a continuation of the series of webinars that the LOETB have been bringing you over the past couple of months. The overall theme is future-proof your business and really putting a focus on digitalization and the digital skills and attributes that you need to be very much aware of as you grow, develop, or even expand your business in the years ahead. Pauric, of course, will be our keynote speaker today, and he works with OnPost, and the main focus of his talk will be on increasing your revenue online through customer experience then across all digital channels. We were originally due to be joined by Barry Mooney from Baby Moon Baby Shop in Tullamore. Due to a family bereavement, Barry has had to step away today, but we're delighted to welcome Siobhan Smyth from Tullamore Floor Store. And Siobhan and her husband Gary were really way ahead of the curve when it came to digitalizing their business and taking their business online. A great example of a business that you mightn't associate with typical an e-commerce website, but they have been, they've found great success with it and really they fit into that team that Pauric's going to talk about as well, about increasing your overall revenue by having your online presence. So we're going to get into Pauric's presentation very shortly. We will, of course, as always, have a question and answer section. So once Pauric is finished, he'll do about 20-25 minutes. We'll have a Q&A. So any questions you might have for Pauric, please put them into the question and answer box or function on the bottom of the screen there. Don't be afraid. Any questions you have, please put them towards him. We'll then invite Siobhan on to give her case study and talk about their experience in developing the e-commerce website. And again, if there's any specific questions for Siobhan, please feel free to use the Q&A function for that also. Towards the end of the webinar then, we'll take maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and any questions we have for both panelists or any kind of themes or theories you'd like to kind of flesh out a little bit more, we'd be delighted to put it towards them. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you first to Jolene Hall from LOETB, and Jolene's going to give us just a quick overview of some of the services that the LOETB are applying or supplying to employers all across Laois and Offaly. You're very welcome, Jolene.
Thanks a million, Ronan. Welcome everybody to our webinar series. We're delighted to have you all with us this afternoon. So just to give people maybe an overview of LOETB, if you're not familiar with us. So we are Laois and Offaly Education and Training Board, and we're state funded to provide education and training programmes across Laois and Offaly. We offer, I suppose, a wide range of programmes, full and part-time, for both employed and unemployed, and we, I suppose, have a number of sectors that we would kind of have training programs in, so to include construction, healthcare, hospitality, engineering, and many more. The programs that we offer, as I say, are on a full or a part-time basis. We have a number of further education and training centres, I suppose, strategically located across Laois and Offaly. Within Laois and Offaly ETB, we also have the employer engagement team, which is made up of the apprenticeship service. So we manage the apprenticeship service. We have the Skills to Advance, which is a programme which is aimed at people who are currently working that wish to upskill or reskill. And we also look after traineeships. So if a company is experiencing skill shortages, we can develop a traineeship in conjunction with that company to meet those skills needs. As I say, we have a variety of training. We will put a link into the chat function later on. If people have, I suppose, any queries in terms of training, if you want to fill in the expression of interest, and we can actually contact you directly in relation to your query. The programs are free or highly subsidised. So, and we offer, I suppose, everything from non-accredited programs up to and including level 6, which will be the equivalent of kind of the first year of college. So I'll pass back to Ronan And what I will do is throughout the webinar, we will post our details of our contact details if people want to contact us directly also. Thanks, Ronan.
Thanks a million, Jolene. I'm going to go, without further ado, introduce our first speaker. I'm going to give it a very brief introduction because we went through a lot of that last week. I think we're all keen just to hear Pauric's presentation once again. But Pauric Lenehan has been head of digital performance at OnPost for a while now. He's working to increase revenue across their digital channels. Pauric has vast experience in the area, and for the past 12 years, he has led the digital strategy and transformation at a number of companies, including OnPost Insurance, Aviva, and AXA Insurance. Pauric is passionate about creating best-in-class digital customer experiences, having worked in so many key roles in that space. So, Pauric, I'd like to hand over to you. Welcome you back to the webinar, and very much looking forward to hearing your presentation.
That's great. So, second time around, hopefully it might hit the mark this time. So I don't know whether I have control, but I'll try and share my screen now. Which one is it? There we go. Let's just see if this works. I'll try rattle through the first one just for anyone that happened to be on the first set of slides, but I'll just see if I can present this. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I can only deal in bursts of threes, so maximizing online revenue is what I call it. I suppose it's just my 15 years of making mistakes and learning from them, and summed up in about 15 minutes. So if anyone wants to reach out and they just want to say, hey, I want to do this or whatever, just contact me. I will respond. It may not be instantaneously, but it's always good to just reach out to sense check something if you want. So moving very quickly into, I've obviously mentioned the different roles that I've worked in. So started off my career in AXA, spent about 10 years there, trying to figure out who I was, went off to Australia, came back, and kind of naturally lended myself to, actually this marketing thing isn't too bad, but I think the digital side of it's where it's going to happen, and kind of built out their first kind of online platform there to sell car insurance, which it took a while, but we got there, and obviously ever since it's been their key channel for conversion. Then I moved on to Aviva and took over their digital marketing, then realized I was burning all their money. So I said, actually, there's no point me spending all this money on digital marketing. Actually, can I fix your websites first? So kind of took over the digital sales and channel, and then moved into a head of digital role and led out their digital program there as their chief product owner, which basically just meant ensuring that we kind of doubled down our revenue from digital channels over that 3-year period. And obviously I was lucky enough to achieve that. So that's really, really important, because we were just really tapping into what consumers were doing anyway. It was just giving them an experience that reflected that and that they expected from a large company like Aviva. Then I took a sideways move over to OnPost Insurance, because obviously it's a great organization. It was originally One Direct and Post Insurance, and rebranded in my time to OnPost Insurance. So huge opportunity there, and I managed to cram in what I'd achieved in probably the last 12, 14 years across AXA Aviva in the 2 years that I did there. So pretty much maybe, hypothetically, maybe 15% of the business was online starting there, and it's now kind of closer to 70+% when I left. So from very simple, obvious changes made to just pretty much their quotation online. Then the next one was just, obviously I did such a great job at OnPost Insurance that they said, you know what, OnPost needs some help on their digital performance. So the onpost.com website is a huge website. We probably about 25 million visitors last year. So COVID is obviously driving a lot of that, but I have to deal in a COVID and non-COVID world. So how do I maximize every single visit to our website and make sure that it's, the best experience that they can possibly have, and at least they can leave with something, whether it's a stamp, whether it's a telephone, whether it's a current account, credit card, loan. All of that falls under me in terms of that. So I look after things like anything with 3 letters, so SEO, which is search engine optimization, and CRO, which is conversion rate optimization, so maximizing every visit. So that's basically it. You're probably thinking, yeah, just get on with it. Enough about you, straight into the detail. So again, in my kind of rule of 3, I kind of recommended just maybe before anyone kind of starts off is like understand your customers, like how do they actually access and interact with your website. So what are the devices they are using? And I'll give you some tips on how you kind of scope that out, because that's really, really important. How are they using these devices? I'll talk to that. And how well do these devices work with your website? So I'll take each in turn. So this is the kind of most cluttered slide I have, and this is from Craig Sullivan. His Twitter handle there is Optimizer Dive. Very, very funny guy, and very experienced in this space. But he kind of gives a kind of diagnostic as like how you would then look at your devices. And I know that Muriel Foley and the Helen Breen session that the LOETB did on how to measure business success is a really good one. So I didn't want to go into analytics because that's all been covered off. So I want to kind of build on that. But this is an important aspect within Google Analytics to understand, you know, where your visitors are coming from, because you might got really good conversion on tablet, but then you have to realize that people that own tablets might have a higher disposable income and more likely to just buy anyway. So it may not be that you've created a really, really good experience. It's just that they're less price sensitive. So there's little things like that you just need to be mindful of. So I just took one aspect of this, and then you can go off at your own time and look at this. But let's just take the mobile devices and how people are using that. So pretty much every website you're talking, I'd be surprised unless you're B2B or something like that, but most visitors will be coming from mobile. You're talking 60 to 70%, if not even higher for some websites. So for me, it's just like understanding, you know, where these customers, what type of devices they're doing it on. So you can go into Google Analytics, or you can do two ways. One is go into your audience, go into your mobile, and then the next drill down is devices, and it will tell you the split. So it'll say actually there's 70% of people on mobile, and of that 50% are Apple and 50% are Android. And then you can drill down into those. Alternatively, you can just hit this link and it'll integrate with your Google Analytics, and you'll just say what Google Analytics account you want to share, and it'll automatically produce that report for you, so you don't have to follow those steps. So it depends your level of experience with Google Analytics. So if you're looking at the Apple stuff, obviously Apple, who doesn't know about Apple, but they have about 50% pretty much of my website visitors. So, but they make it very difficult. They don't tell you what model is visiting your site, or whether it's the iPhone 10 or 5, but you can find out through the screen resolution. And here's a little link that can show you the screen resolution and the corresponding iPhone model, which is pretty useful if you just want to see, because you might have an iPhone 10, but maybe 30% of your visitors are on, an iPhone 8. So just need to be mindful of that when you're designing your website. And then for Android, you can do that much easier in Google Analytics. You do by model or by brand, so it made it much simpler. And then if you don't have a load of devices lying around the house, you can go onto Browser Stack or at the Amazon device farm, where you can literally rent a device and do some testing and put your website into it and bang away on it there and do some testing on it, because what you might see on an Apple you may not see in an Android, and and then you might be wondering why your conversions are down that month. So the next part of the three modules was 2, which is how are they actually using the devices. And this is something that I've always loved, is around how people are holding their phones. So pretty much most people hold it with one hand, and then 75% of people use their thumb. So just pretty much just the one finger. And obviously you want to be trying to design stuff and making stuff in the kind of very green zone there, which is very easy to click on up there. And if you don't really want them to click, put it up there. So that's just something important to consider. So if you have call to actions and things like that, especially when you open up your website first, you don't want things cluttering up and pushing your key call to action, behind or below the fold, as they say, out of sight. Because if they can't see it, they can't click on it, and they'll just bounce, which is leave the page. So then one thing that I'm obsessed about is finger sizes, which you might find surprising, but that big meat whacker you have on your end of your hand is pretty much how most people are going to interact with your website. So the average fingerprints imprint is about 11 millimeters. Obviously babies is much smaller to a basketball player. I don't know how many basketball players are visiting your site, but just important to consider. But and I don't have any algorithms to figure out how many basketball players there are on your site. So I kind of likened it to this, which is the sun, Mercury, which is there, and then your finger, and then if you create such a small call to action, it makes it nearly impossible for someone to click on it. So just be mindful of that, make the button clickable. I've done some recent tests where we had hyperlinks instead of a button, but like the button's got maybe 150% higher click-through rate than the hyperlink, unless you want to do something where maybe it's a context number or something that you didn't really want to be receiving phone calls, then you could maybe possibly change that to a hyperlink, depending on what you want it to do. So one company that I'm obsessed about, and obviously it's in everyone's lives these days, and it's the first time I've mentioned COVID in the presentation, but everybody knows Netflix. I probably finished Netflix at this stage and moved on to Amazon Prime at this stage. So what I'm obsessed about is Netflix. They don't look at devices. They look at the distance you hold the device from your face. So whether you're looking at a TV screen or whether you're looking at your phone, which could be about 6 to 8 inches, you normally hold a tablet on your lap, which is going to be about 10 to 14 inches. And then you design the clickable icons for each of the different series according to the distance of the person from the phone, and they've done the same. They have a pretty much a design guideline as to, well, it can never be smaller than that size font, and then moving up to the size of the font for TVs. So it's really, really important. It's just a nice insight in terms of the extent to which people go to in terms of kind of user experience and user interface design. So this was something that came up last week. It was my wife's 40th birthday, so like everything is scrambling around to try and find some nice presents. It wasn't last minute or anything like that, but well, she didn't think it was last minute, but it pretty much was. But so I went to go to this website, which is the Clifford Lions, which is a very nice restaurant. They do personalized videos, and they send you out a full pack, uncooked, of all the meat, all the food, all the different starters and main courses and everything. And you watch a QR code and you scan it, and you can watch it and cook it at home yourself, to nearly like Michelin star quality effectively. But when I went to the site, it was like, okay, what's this? Subscribe to a mailing list. Okay, fine. But it was like, okay, I really want to close that. That's quite small. But then when I got to it, there nowhere on the page, even when I scroll down on desktop, whatever, could I see how I could actually get into how I could actually book. But then obviously a transparent button on a background is not the best in the top right hand corner. And remember your thumb, how far, don't make me reach, and I'm quite lazy when it comes to thumb movement. So I persisted, but not everyone is as tolerant as me. So just bear that in mind. And this whole presentation will have stuff that's contains statements of the obvious, but I suppose for me, I'm obsessed with data. So it's not, I wouldn't be making recommendations like this if I couldn't substantiate it from some past experience that's probably scarred me for life. So the next section was just around how well do these devices work with your website. So for me, I've been obsessed with insurance forms all my life, making it as simple as possible, because insurance is a real grudge purchase. So if you're asking people loads of questions, it feels like a quiz as opposed to an actual application for insurance, but you should try and make it as easy as for customers. So if you do, for some reason on your website, have to collect details on a form, whether it's just an inquiry form or whatever, just don't make it hard for customers. But then the simple things that you can do when looking for say, for example, you just need a telephone number for a customer, use a numeric keyboard. So, and like particularly when you're getting payment details as well, you don't want this experience where you ask for the credit card and then you're giving them the non-numeric keyboard. Like, it's kind of design 101. It's just a small bit of code, and you just need to make sure that the number keypad appears for customers. So, because it's pretty much it's much larger touch size. And remember what I said, your thumb is your main movement, 11% like 11 millimeter touch area. So having those makes it much easier. You're going to get much better data quality. The credit card, you're not going to get as many errors because the person didn't hit the wrong number. So really, really important. But it's those little simple things that can just be the tipping point for a lot of customers. You know, putting in spell checkers, you know, on text forms and putting in your name, and then it says, are you sure you're not Pork and not Pauric? You know, so it's not great. That's not a great experience, you know. And then things like, if you do have to have a drop down, try and avoid them if you can. If it's only a couple of different options, you know, make sure turn them into buttons. You know, if that would normally traditionally on insurance form, online insurance forms would be a drop down with 3 and you'd select one, but you know, make it nice and simple, click, click, click. And the same with this. I think there's a rule of thumb, if it's any more than 6 or 7 options, then you kind of revert back to a drop down. But if you are doing a drop down, at least if it has, like say, occupations where there's 400 occupations, at least allow the customer to put in a T, and then they'll find teacher and it'll bring you straight to that section. So make it usable. I won't go into these, but the gov.uk is often referred to from user experience and UI, user interface designers, as kind of the go-to place of how you should do and build certain elements of forms. So these are some really nifty links to show you how you should build, you know, things like error validation, you know, how you should ask for an email address, and just on the keyboard and the numeric touchpad, this is a really good link in terms of how you actually do that. So if you don't know how to do it, but you have somebody that has designed your site, give them that. And if you haven't, obviously if you have it, then great, fantastic. But if you don't, show them that and say, can you change that next week if you can. So the next section and the home straight is kind of the listening to customers. And normally I kind of show stuff where I respond directly back to customers if they write complaints and agree with them that it's such a terrible experience, and then invite them in. In some instances, I invite them in to be user testers and say, I'm really sorry that the experience was terrible. And I know OnPost is much better than that. So if you don't mind, if you're up to it, we're redesigning that. So I'd love you to be a user test. So when we go and build a new version, they go, oh, great. Yeah, well, as long as I feel like my opinion's been noted, that's a really, really important thing, because it's about winning over the customer at the end of the day. So I'll talk about user tests. So grab anyone you can to test your website, and try not, and don't let it be you. It can be you, but you know, you come with baggage as well and association with it, and you believe it to be the best website in the world, but that's not how people will see it. Analyze your competitors, really, really important. If your competitors are terrible, don't look at companies in adjacent fields. And then if you have the time, resources and energy, watching session recordings, there's technology there that does that would bolt on top of your site, and there's free versions of it out there. But even if you put it on for a couple of weeks, you get so much insight out of that. So I'll talk to those very briefly. So user tests, this is how I got into it originally years ago in AXA. I started off as a market research, and then some guy gave me a book called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug, and that was everything. That changed the course of my life pretty much. I was like, this is really interesting, I love this. So when it comes to research, often it's about, oh, well, you need at least 300 or 400 people to do a survey because it won't be statistically robust. But it's nearly the opposite of user tests. If you grab 7 or 8 people and say, can you go onto my site and find this product and put it into a basket and pretend that you're buying it, and just kind of talk me through that whole experience. And you know, did you see the button? Were you able to put it in? What happened? You'll unearth so much. So really the main insight here is, like, you know, you've got loads of data here and it's a waste of time. So any more than 7 or 8 people, you're on a kind of diminishing return. You could ask 100 people, but you'll pretty much get what you got from the first 8 people in terms of what's really fundamentally broken on your site. The next bit is around analyzing competitors. So there's something that I'm obsessed about, and it's probably from my research and insight days as well. It's just at least looking over the shoulder and seeing what's there. Just be careful you don't copy a test that they're doing. That could be an absolute disaster. And it was only just a test. So just be mindful of, you know, they could be testing stuff themselves. This is a really funny website in terms of the UK. It's like everything from a design perspective, what you should never do. It's like movable images, everything. There's so much going on. I can't see the wood from the trees, but she's made such a virtue of it, and she's really brought out her personality that it's nearly often a case study of, you know, what not to do. But she's a very, very successful car leasing company in the UK. But I suppose you should always try and bring out a bit of your personality, but maybe not to this extent. So then I tried to go, well, how do I even bring this back to this kind of forum? So like, I don't know anything about Laois or Offaly. I'm a Mead man originally. So I kind of said, right, well, let's just say furniture Port Laois, what would I get back from Google? And Google is so important in terms of how you're found. You know, I need another session just on SEO, search engine optimization. But you can see here, you know, furniture Port Laois, you know, Cloud9 furniture, really good. They've got what's called the meta description that's pulling in there. It's like, okay, I can understand they're doing furniture. It's Port Laois, grand. Down here, there's finlinefurniture.ie, but like they haven't optimized that page there. So they're just, images are being pulled in there. So if I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh, and images tagged, whatever. So that's a simple change that you can make to some of the pages that are appearing. So you really want to be, so if you've got a really good offer and you know it's going to be running for a while, you can say, you know, 0% finance for whatever, blah, 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 and make sure you give a customer that reason to click, because there's stats from the UK or from the US that's saying there's like 48% of people are doing zero clicks, which basically means they're not actually clicking on any of the search results. They're getting what they need from that. So it's really, really important. So then I brought this to just a kind of step further and just looked at Cloud9 furniture. I don't know whether anyone knows them, but really, really good in terms of what they've done. You know, really good, strong links. They're all coming in there. They have Google reviews, which some people are very afraid of in terms of, oh, what if there's bad reviews and stuff like that. But so it's kind of, I can maybe answer that in the questions section, but you should probably do it. But if you have a kind of a new website or something like that you're designing, then maybe wait until then to start doing that. But really, really important piece here is that 30% plus of mobile searches have a location in them. So particularly for Laois, Offaly and stuff like that, you know, if someone leases looking social or locally for you, then you should bear that in mind, that, you know, if you find a Google My Business page, that's really, really important to go, okay, are they open? Where are they? Great, okay, I can find them. And up here is like 3 out of 4 online searches use search engine to find a business, and like something like 7 out of 10 will then subsequently buy from that. So really, really important to have a minimum of Google My Business. I could spend a whole other session on that, but we recently ran a joint event with Google and Stripe in terms of an SME seminar, which is on the onpost.com commerce section. But here is a 35 minutes into the video, you can watch it. There's a section on how to set up Google My Business with Rachel McGuire from Google, and there's the link for it there. So that's really, really useful piece, I think, if you don't have one, or at least if you have one and you need to maybe just optimize it, then, you know, maybe just have a look at that. So turn it back on myself in terms of, you know, where can I steal ideas from? You know, where, you know, obviously Smyths and me, which I've 3 kids under 7, so, you know, Smyths and me are best friends now. So, you know, I was looking at, well, this is a really nice way of showing their USPs, their, you know, unique selling points there in terms of their offering. And like, so where does that, I have something similar to that on my site, which is when you go to buy a stamp from us, I've got this big banner here that just says minimum order €2, maximum order 5,000. Is that really doing a job for us? So I kind of went, well, how do I take what Smyths have done and maybe pull that in and do what's called an A/B test, where I show half of my audience the original, and then I show half of the audience this, which is pretty much copy and paste from the Smyth store. So we actually give free delivery to to the Republic of Ireland. You get a track delivery from just €8, and obviously the COVID messaging there. So we ran that, and obviously we ran a couple of different versions of that with different messaging in it, but that was the strongest and compelling message, and we saw 11% increase in our conversion rate as a result. So obviously we've such a large volume of customers that 11% increase is nothing to be frowned at. So I'm just trying to say, little things like that, just that things of the subtlety of a page design can have huge impact on your revenue. And trying to move away from kind of Smyths, who also do this really well, which is around price display and discounting. So if you're selling a product or you're selling a service, people love a discount, you know what I mean? So there's some great books. Dan Aurelia, Predictably Irrational, is really good, like around just the bizarreness of people and making decisions, but around pricing. But I love this section here, like, right, the strike through, the original price, the discount off, everyone loves a bargain, the rating's awesome, the price, that sounds good to me. Yeah. So the same again with Smyths, they do a great job. Strike through there, nice red imagery there, rare. Wow, what's that mean? So I get drawn into it. So if you've got a particular product that you want to spotlight, highlight it, expose it, grab my attention. So I did the same. I said, right, well, actually we sell a lot of stamps, and we discounted rolls, which are great value. So I was like, okay, well, how do we do that? So how do we take some of that learning? So we ran a couple of different tests. We put some of the little stickers there, reduced, very subtle, like, the line through it with the red text, and we had 122% increase in people adding it to the basket from this product list page. So huge increase in the number of people just saying, yeah, sure, I'll roll the dice there. Sure, looks like I'm getting a great deal there. But effectively, we haven't changed the pricing of the product or anything like that. It's a fair test. So really important, just those subtle cues there on the screen. And the very last 2 slides is just, this kind of looks like I killed Slimer from the Ghostbusters and dragged it across a page, but effectively this is like session replay software. So it's a piece of tech that you sit on your website. You can tag whatever pages you want and it will record. Google Analytics will record something arrived on your site and went from here to here to here. And it's very hard, even for me, after all these years, to often interpret it. But the session replay software will then sit on your site and actually go, well, actually, they spent a lot of time here, unfortunately, for the poor quality of the screen grab here. But this was actually on AXA Insurance when I was there. There was something like 40 or 50 seconds spent filling in an address. Now, I don't know about you, but I know what my address is and I can fill it in. But then I'm kind of going, well, that doesn't make sense. So what's happened there? So you can watch the videos back and you'll see how frustrating it is for customers. Things weren't matching. They were putting in, the second line and the first line with the first line. So, I got rid of that, and the same with some of these things and changed it to, if Domino's Pizza can get a pizza delivered to you, when it should be the same here, they're asking for address all the time. So we changed to a new technology, added it in, and it moved from 40 seconds to maybe less than 3 seconds for a customer to not only find their address but match it and input it. So obviously there's lots of tools out there. You might go, Jesus, this is because you've got big budgets, Pauric, whatever. But no, it's not. Like these, I think Mouseflow might actually be free. I think these are maybe 40 or 50 euros a month, and not sure about Session Cam, but I've used them in the past. But depends on, you cut the cloth to the budget that you have, to be honest. And then some final last tips just for landing pages. So less is more when it comes to content. Just be mindful that you're ensuring that you're optimizing for what people are searching for as well. So this is just a simple example, like, do you really need all of that? Say new password saved. So just make sure, like, people just, and I'm become the worst at it as well, that Twitter generation of just I need the couple of characters. I don't need the full story. I don't need the autobiography. I just need the snippet. So if you can, and it's like if you're talking about Portlaoise furniture, just make sure that page has multiple times on it that, we do great furniture in Portlaoise, blah blah blah, and showcase it, not to the point where it's stuffing. Years ago you would have been optimized for having the term on it multiple times, but at least have that page, call the URL, furniture. Do you know what I mean? Don't call it, image for settee or sofa. Do you know what I mean? Have the URLs, the name of the location as close to this main search term. So for example, AXA.ie/car insurance, because there's 40,000 searches for car insurance every month. Whereas if I call it Car Insurance Ireland, there's only 12,000 searches for that. So you optimize your URLs based on what people are searching for. Trust matters. So don't put doubt into customers' mind before they buy. So like if I'm buying from SME, I'm like, oh, who am I buying from? Like, is this a secure site? How do I know? Are these real people? Just have whatever you can to kind of show trust. And that could be as simple as some type of accreditation, or a customer testimonial, which is kind of here. And you might go, I don't want to open the floodgates here in terms of ratings and reviews. What if I get really bad ones and people just see 1-star rating? You can always start off with ask a couple of customers and say, all right, if I use a kind of testimonial from you, and at least put that on the site and see how your page performs as a result, before you want to take the big plunge into doing something more. And the very last but not least is just obviously on post commerce. We have loads of things out there for kind of SMEs, so we have our Advantage card, which is discounted labels, Click and Post, which is an online service where you can use your customers to return stuff to your store, or you can print labels if you're sending stuff to your customers, if that's your business model, all online, which is a new piece of kit that we launched over maybe a year and a half ago, and it's fantastic feedback on that. And then obviously we have our bread and butter, which is a direct mail solution. So if you want to target customers in your local area, we have ad mail or publicity post, and then we have a new development in terms of programmatic direct mail. So if a customer comes to your website and you know who they are, you can then follow up with a customized a piece of post that goes out to their door, and we've seen huge increase in conversion for that. But I don't want to labor that, but that's just kind of the on-post angle there, and that's all available on onpost.com if you want to see it. So that is me. Sorry about feels like a filibuster, just filling the time there. So thanks very much for listening, everyone.
Thank you, Pauric. That's been both fascinating, I think, and scary at the same time. Thank you for drilling it down to such kind of specific points as well. But I would guess, I see some of the questions coming in, and to any of the participants, please use the Q&A function there to keep adding questions. But there's certainly a team of almost like, wow, how, as an SME owner, how much time should we be spending really on checking the back end of a website, checking, what customers are doing, and how might you go about, I suppose, bring that into a normal working week that's already jam-packed?
Well, it's like everything. Grab your family, grab your friends, just say, here's my website, tell us unbiasedly what you think, would you buy from it, and get them to plow through it. It goes back to that user testing thing, start simple, like I've gone from managing teams of 50 to teams of nobody, and sometimes the teams of nobody are better. It makes you more focused on your time, like I suppose, like going into quotes, but like the essence of strategy is deciding on what not to do. So sometimes it's just like, that user testing piece is just, yeah, okay, Grant, there's something fundamentally broken with the site. And you know what, that's the worst thing that can happen. Even if you don't have the data, I'd still recommend just change it and see if anything happens in terms of at least 1 or 2 metrics on the site, whether it's, inquiry forms, whether it's your phone ringing, start detailing it, documenting it down, and that's where I would start personally. But it's every SME is different.
Is it a common thing that a lot of companies maybe get a first website or get a new website done up, and then it sits and nothing else happens with it? Is that one of the biggest pitfalls, the biggest issues with sites?
Yeah, I think it's like, if you put the analogy of a retail store, it's like you get your new window, and then you put your spring collection in, But what happens is over time, you then put in the summer collection, but you don't take the spring collection out of the window. And then you put the autumn collection in on top of the summer and the spring and then winter. And then someone goes, oh, Jesus, awful cluttered. Time for a redesign. When you should be just taking stuff off, putting stuff on, you know, testing, learning, you know, have a basic understanding of Google Analytics. You know, like you'd be surprised you can know so much about Google Analytics or you know so little, but even if you just picked up a few small bits or befriend someone that is better than you on it, you know, it's all about getting to the end goal, which is how do I just make sure, because, you know, I could be dealing with 24 million visitors in a year and you could be dealing with 24 visitors in a month. So you really want to make sure they leave with something, or you kind of get some data off them or something, you know, to understand who they were.
Because I guess that would probably be a concern for a lot of business owners, that, you know, you could devote 20 hours a week to look at all these analytics and stuff like that. But as you say, even sometimes to drill down and see what devices people are using it from, how do you know maybe that there's missed opportunities there? Like if it's very hard to translate that maybe into lost revenue. Is it how might businesses go about making sure that they're spending appropriate amounts of time looking into all these things?
Yeah, like it does take a bit of time, but I think you'll see, you know, say for example, you do that device sections, right, and you go, right, well, 70% are mobile and then 50% are Apple. If you do one, say, all right, let's do the iPhone 10, and you go through your key product journey, you go, this is the one that if this breaks, I'm screwed because I won't get any inquiry forms. And you just go through it yourself and go, okay, well, that seems to work. Okay, that's good. So it could be just as simple as that. You know, you don't need to go near analytics. If you're afraid of analytics, don't go near it, you know, or at least find somebody that can educate you on it, or just pass the baton to them. You know, I'm very much in that space of like, I'm not good at accountancy, but I'll pay an accountant if I have to, you know, because that's their bread and butter. So it's really just how much you want to control and own it. And obviously, you know, you're an SME, you control everything. You control the finance, you control, you know, not just the analytics, you own the logistics end of it. So, you know, I appreciate it's very difficult to just get down into the weeds on it, but you know, you'll normally see it, and the user testing again will uncover that. So you'll just ask the person, what phone were you using when you did that? I said, well, I didn't get any, I couldn't see any call to action. I say, what? And you go, that's something wrong there. You'll find that all out, the problems that most people are encountering.
Yeah, and I suppose too, if you have an outside consultant or a company involved as well, maybe that they build in maybe, you know, regular testing and user testing of it as well for you, and feedback on it. So Pauric, thanks a million for that. I'm going to actually move over now to Siobhan, but what we'll do is maybe after Siobhan's presentation there'll be a little bit of space there for a couple of more questions. We're glad to put them to our panelists. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Siobhan Smyth from Tullamore Floor Store. And again, as I said at the start, herself and her husband Gary were ahead of the curve a few years ago in getting their e-commerce website developed. So Siobhan is going to tell us a story about how that came about, and you know, the benefits it has brought as well, and what it was like being almost ready for what happened over the past year. So Siobhan, you're very welcome. Very much looking forward to hearing your story.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for inviting me on. So yeah, we have a flooring company here in Offaly, and we have our website is floorstoredirect.ie. It's our company also. In 2005, we opened our business in Tullamore, and we were very, very busy with walk-ins. Obviously, it was the middle of the boom and the whole lot. Roll on 3 years later, and everything just went flat at that stage. So I remember sitting there and I said to myself, Jesus, we're not going to last here because there's nobody around, there's nobody coming through the door and so on. And I said, so I said, I'd mentioned it to a few of the reps and to a few of the guys working for us that I wanted to do a website. And they thought I was absolutely nuts, because who's going to buy timber flooring online, you know? So anyway, I went to a web developer. I told him what I wanted. I told him I wanted the best website possible, e-commerce website possible. And we've so many products, so many different ranges, colors, sizes, box sizes. It's an awful lot of information to get up on the website at the start. But anyway, 2015, we got our proper, after years of testing and whatnot, we got our proper website set up, which is now floorstoredirect.ie. We now have over 40,000 visitors to our site every month. 70% of our business will be done through or because of our website. It's been phenomenal for us. When we done the website in 2015, I said to our web designer, I said, if you build me the best website, we promise that we are going to do the back end and we're going to keep it maintained. So we constantly, to this day, work every single day on the back end of our website. It's hard work, but it has to be done to keep up with your SEO and everything else that's needed to keep us up there. In 2017, we won an award for the Chamber of Commerce for the best website in our catchment area, which was fantastic for us because you're up against every other different business. Our social media, we spend a lot of time on that as well. Our Facebook, our Instagram, Twitter, and so on, which led me into the whole looking at the whole marketing thing, because I didn't have an absolute clue, didn't have a clue about websites starting off, didn't have a clue about webs or anything to do with SEO. So I started looking into the marketing. I'm currently, we done all this ourselves by not really having any education and growing our website organically, I suppose. I didn't know about the Google ads either. So we now, we run Google ads. We try to do most of our stuff organically. We do a lot of blogging, do a lot of questions and answers, videos, and so on. But I'm currently studying with UCD at the moment, doing digital marketing, because I just absolutely love it. And I love the fact that trying to provide a good user experience. I think it's the main thing. The navigation around our site, we are constantly changing that, twerking things, checking out our Google Analytics to see, what age group are coming to our site, who's interested, is it male or female? Like Pauric said, all of those things is a factor into how we look at and how we're growing our business. So that's basically it. I'm kind of heading in a different direction now because of all of this, and I'm actually loving the digital marketing whole, helping people. I've just tried to help out friends and of course ourselves and working on it all the time, but I'm looking at heading into at the start of next month, helping other people with digital marketing in the area. So it's all evolving.
That's for sure. I mean, it's amazing just to think of from kind of simple beginnings to get to that already. You touched on a lot of things there, Siobhan, particularly like the amount of time that you were spending on the back end of the website. And just coincidentally, we mentioned that to Pauric about maybe so many companies do it. Typically, on a daily basis, what are you looking at and roughly how long are you spending on it?
Well, we look at different things like who are our customers, what are they looking for, what makes us different, and how we can, I suppose, solve their pain or have our product there if that's what they're looking for, and finding those customers. But it's very important, like if you build a website, you have to put the work into it. The same with your social media, it has to be constant. Google are always looking for what's relevant. So like Pauric said, and this is why I started studying it, is because I started looking for somebody to do it for me, couldn't find anybody. So it's important, if you're not able to do it and you want to have an online presence, do try to find somebody that can help you out,
You mentioned there how about 70% of your revenue is coming through the online. That's staggering. So I suppose one question is that, are they kind of independent sales, or is the online, is it complementing, say, the more traditional sales effort, like people on the road, telephone calls, or is that 70% nearly?
Ronan, it's both. Yeah, we get both. So that would accommodate for all together combined. But like the majority of our sales would be Cork, Dublin, Limerick, anywhere, nationwide. So yeah, it's just opened up a gateway for us. Because depending on the local trade was not working even before the pandemic. So what happened with us, because we were early to the whole idea of having an e-commerce site, was when the first lockdown came, we became very busy because there was no other flooring shops that were selling online. So since the first week, or since the first lockdown, all the big boys have now come to the table. So now more than ever, we are constantly trying to keep up there, you know, without having their large budgets. So it's a bit of work, all right.
Yeah, no, but again, it's great to be able to put you in the position of almost being the leader of it there too. Anyone that's listening today, Siobhan, what should they do, say, once they've come off this webinar this evening? What are the first things they should look at from your perspective in terms of trying to replicate or begin their journey to do what you've done at Tullamore Floor Store?
Well, I would say I would definitely plan their online strategy and what they want to do, and to set up goals, you know, of what they want to achieve, and probably like a mission statement as to how they are going to achieve those goals. But to look at the different platforms as well. I mean, it depends on the business or the service that you're providing. So to look at your different platforms, what you want to be seen on, what voice you want to use, how you want to be portrayed. That's really my advice there, yeah.
Thanks a million, Siobhan. It's a great story, and it's a credit to yourself and Gary as well for having that vision and then the drive to push ahead with it and to make it such a success. So I'm going to just invite Pauric back on as well. We've one or two questions there just to finish off for today. Pauric, one of the participants has asked about things like cart abandonment. It's obviously a big issue for companies that people have gone so far on your site, they've put product in the cart, but they haven't made the sale. Can you give us a bit of, on that in terms of how can people maybe improve on that, or what are maybe the primary causes of that happening?
Well, obviously, yeah, the most visited page in any kind of that type of website is the basket page, the most abandoned one. But believe it or not, actually, Unpost actually doesn't have a cart abandonment tool at the moment. That's something that I'm building out at the moment, because conversion rates are pretty good and we're doing lots of different tests, but cart abandonment is just kind of one of those brilliant basics that you should have on a website. So that's revert back to my insurance background. So somebody gets a quote, and they go, geez, the price or whatever. But I've built lots of what's called enterprise event-based mailing, so which is effectively cart abandonment. So person does a quote, and within kind of less than 2 minutes we send it to them. But like for me, it's in the insurance model, outbound dialing has been a huge aspect of following up on those cart abandonments. So like a lot of insurance sales come off the back of that, because they know that when a customer calls, they might convert them at 30%. Whereas on the web, they might only convert them at 10%. So if you can get that hook, maybe your website isn't doing you the proper service, and you guys are the salespeople, you know how to sell your product. So if you can at least get the phone number in that journey, it might seem a bit alien, or at least, but if you can, and you believe that that's the best mechanism in how you get to those customers, then ring them if you have the resource and energy. But yourself, you will convert them if you can explain it, depending on what the product is. But yeah, like there's those cart abandonment tools. I don't know what the best ones are for SMEs. I deal with kind of monolithic legacy systems and how they integrate, and with Unpost, it's effectively nearly semi-state, so we're like, it has to be safe as houses, so it could be a 13-month procurement process, whereas you guys are much more nimble in terms of what you can bolt on. But and then I think the other part of that question was around call to actions, and that's an area that I've been obsessed with in terms of call to actions, from, maybe I put more urgency into this one, like buy now and things like that. So that'd be another session altogether. But I think for me, there's some simple tips. Always have your call to action above the fold. Don't have it too long. Say, for example, say for our credit cards and loans, we had apply now, which you'd assume would get a higher click-through rate, but actually check eligibility is much less aggressive call to action, and we saw much more people interacting. And like for me, it's like no point running a test. If more people click on it, it doesn't matter to me. You know, I'm all about revenue. And if like, so what if they click it loads of time? If they don't convert better than the apply now, then don't put that button on. But actually, the check eligibility, you got a higher click rate, but also got a higher conversion rate at the back end. So, you know, those subtle little things where you might go, well, of course it's apply now, but check eligibility. But you have to be willing to be uncomfortable with yourself in terms of, well, I think when I designed this site, it was the best that I could have designed it, but it's not what customers will relate to. They'll go, well, actually check eligibility. I'll give that a whirl, you know.
Yeah, so it could be almost, you know, maybe differentiating between actually a buy now and get a quotation now, because at least you're getting that contact information too, and you can go back to people. I suppose, Siobhan, can we just put that to you from the point of view of cart abandonment? Is that something that you experience, and how do you go about monitoring it?
Yeah, absolutely. At, say, last December, we actually ran a thing where we had noticed that there was a lot of cart abandonment at one stage. So we put on a voucher code where they could have free delivery to see if that had changed the situation. And ironically, it hadn't. So it's funny, just testing different scenarios all the time, like Pauric was doing with the A/B testing and that. What we did then, we changed the layout of it like that. It was a bit complicated as well to put in your name, and it was auto putting in contact details. So we've rectified that situation anyway by changing the form that you put it on. So it does make a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, but it's absolutely great to hear of it, you know, actually in action, and something that you're also doing the bit of testing on. Very conscious of the time, folks. Pauric Lenehan and Siobhan Smyth, thank you so much for taking time out to talk to everybody this evening. Jolene Hall from the LOETB is just going to pop back on just for a quick minute, just to talk about some of the programs that they've available for you, particularly in that field around digitalization and getting your business future-proofed.
Thanks, Ronan, and thanks to Siobhan and Pauric for joining us today as guest speakers. I just wanted to, emphasise, that we have a particular focus on digitalisation to help companies to grow and I suppose to become more competitive. And we do realise, I suppose, within Laois and Offaly that digitalisation means different things to different companies. So we do offer a wide range of programmes, from basic literacy through to QQI level 5 and level 6 programs. We also are currently offering programs, so introduction to security and networking, to databases, to cloud computing, and also the introduction to operating systems as well. In May, we are actually starting a QQI level 5 digital marketing program. It'll run one afternoon a week for 14 weeks. And as part of that, the areas that will be covered were our data analytics, search engines, and also kind of social media. And as part of that as well, there is one-to-one support there available for people who want to, I suppose, look at maybe developing digital marketing strategies and that as well. So just to finish off, Ronan, I'm just going to share our contact details. As I say, we are available if you have any bespoke training needs that you'd like to discuss further. Please feel free to contact one of the team in the employer services.
Thanks a million, Jolene. So we'll leave that slide up there for the last minute or two, just to let you all know that the next webinar will be on the 12th of May at 2 p.m. and our guest speaker on the day will be Pedro Angulo. Pedro is Head of Leadership Development at AIB, and he's also the Programme Lead for the Diploma in Strategic Human Resource Management at the Irish Management Institute too. Quite well known in the field of leadership and leadership development in the country. We'll confirm our case study closer to date as well. Registration will be by the usual links. Keep an eye on your LinkedIn feed and on the various social media channels. So other than that, I think it's just time to say thank you for joining us once again. Thanks to our guest speakers, to Pauric Lenehan and to Siobhan Smyth, and to all the team at the LOETB for putting together this series and for continuing to bring you the kind of cutting edge content that we know is of benefit and will be of benefit to your businesses as you continue to, respond and react to the year that has been and future-proof your business. So on behalf of us all, we say goodbye. Thank you for joining in, and hope to see you all again on the 12th of May.
See you. Thank you.